All right. Recording. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We're so grateful for you tuning in. This week, we're going to be discussing aphorisms 200 through 203, finishing up the fifth chapter of Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. The chapter is titled A Natural History of Morals. So we're going to be finishing that up today. Pretty interesting read, and they're a little bit longer of sections. But I'm sure you guys know if you guys are reading along with us. So before we jump in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, just so you can stay up to date on what we're uploading. And follow us on our social media platforms. All the information you need will be down in the description box below. So welcome in, guys. It's nice to see you again. Been a little while. We took a week off, but I'm excited to be back. It's nice to see you guys. So we'll jump into aphorism 200. Who wants to read that one first?
I got it. All right. All right. The man of an age of dissolution, which mixes the races with one another, who has the inheritance of a diversified descent in his body, that is to say, contrary, and often not only contrary, instincts and standards of value, which struggle with one another and are seldom at peace. Such a man of late culture and broken lights will, on an average, be a weak man. His fundamental desire is that the war which is in him should come to an end. Happiness appears to him in the character of a soothing medicine and mood of thought. For instance, Epicurean or Christian, it is above all things the happiness of repose, of undisturbedness, of repletion, of final unity. It is the Sabbath of Sabbaths, to use the expression of the holy rhetorician Saint Augustine, who has himself such a man. Should, however, the contrariety and conflict in such natures operate as an additional incentive and stimulus to life, and if, on the other hand, in addition to their powerful and inconcealable instincts, they have also inherited and indoctrinated into them a proper mastery and subtlety for carrying on the conflict with themselves, that is to say, the faculty of self-control and self-deception. There then arise those were marvelously incomprehensible and inexplicable beings, those
Enigmatical.
Enigmatically men, predestined for conquering and circumventing others, the finest example of which are Alcibiades and Caesar, with whom I should like to associate the first of Europeans according to my taste, the Hohenstaufen, Frederick II, and among artists, perhaps, Leonardo da Vinci. They appear precisely in the same periods when that weaker type, with its longing for response, comes to the front. The two types are complementary to each other and spring from the same causes.
No, you had to read the aphorism. I highlighted the most words I did not know.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, there's some good ones in there, man. All right. What did you guys get from this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
First section where he's saying, like, he's describing the man of an age of dissolution, which mixes the races with one another, and then he goes on. That is he saying that on average, men are weak?
No, I mean, look, I mean, he's talking about, I mean, mixes the race with one another, who has the inheritance of a diversified descent in his body. That is to say, the contrary, and often not only contrary, instincts and standards of value. Like, I think he's talking about, like, this is just like when I read that, is like, let's look at Europe right now. Like, when France was made up of 99% French people, their values aligned, things were very like, they were all on the same page, because a lot of the things were just natural values inherent to them. And like, they didn't need to be explained. It's like literally an inheritance of values. But right now, with the mass immigration of people thousands and thousands of miles away, not even like from Virginia to California, like whole different backgrounds. And then they're French now. And then those people have kids with like different people. None of them have the same values. And like they're at war with themselves with their own values. Like who am I even? Like what's like a half what's a half Jewish and black person? That's like a character on The Sopranos, you know? Well, she doesn't matter. Yeah, it's Drake. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So like that first part, I think it's just like exactly what it means, you know?
Yeah, you described it really well. I highlighted this section, and I think it's just Nietzsche's way of saying what you just said. But it says instincts and standards of value, which struggle with one another and are seldom at peace. Such a man of late culture and broken lights will, on an average, be a weak man. His fundamental desire is that the war which is in him should come to an end. Happiness appears to him in the character of a soothing medicine and mode of thought. So there's this, this mixes of races is an interesting way to put it, but there's this like dichotomy in this weak man where there's like an internal conflict. Like we all have this internal conflict, right? There's like voices in the head that are like, do this. And then another voice that says, that's not right. Like,
yeah,
you need to be doing this instead. There's this like internal conflict that everybody has, but the weak man, all he wants is happiness. He sees happiness as a medicine and mode of thought. And so he's describing this like weak man in this frame of mixed race. Right. And then he says here, I highlighted this too. He says, on the other hand, in addition to their powerful and irreconcilable instincts, they have also inherited and indoctrinated into them a proper mastery and subtlety for carrying on the conflict within themselves. That is to say, the faculty of self-control and self-deception. There then arise the marvelously incomprehensible and inexplicable beings, those enigmatical men predestined for conquering and circumventing others. So there's these other types of men which are enigmatical, inexplicable, and marvelously incomprehensible that use that internal conflict rather than trying to avoid and soothe it.
right.
So I had to look up a couple words in here, but repose in geology, we talk about the angle of repose. So when you build a sandcastle, you can only build it so high until it starts to fall back down. Right? So you got 35 degrees. Repose means rest, right?
Oh, I reposed the fuck earlier today, dog.
Oh yeah, you fucking reposed hard.
All of my bed reposed up.
And so he says, it is above all things the happiness of repose that this weak man wants. He just wants to rest. I just don't want to be disturbed. And Jordan Peterson talks about people say they want happiness, but all they want is not to suffer. And it's describing this weak man that Nietzsche's talking about, right? Where they just want happiness and they want to be undisturbed. I don't want to suffer, right? So,
well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. If he's saying that they're weak, yeah, it makes sense.
Right. So I got a little bit of a summary. I'll read it, but it helped me put things together a little bit. But it says Nietzsche examines the condition of modern man living in an age of dissolution, where mixed racial and cultural heritages have led to a fragmented inner life. Most men are weakened by this internal division and seek peace, rest, and unity, often through philosophies like Epicureanism or Christianity that offer solace. However, Nietzsche posits that a rare type of man, those with both irreconcilable instincts and a trained ability for self-control, can transmute this inner war into power. These men are incomprehensible and exceptional, and they emerge from the same cultural tensions that cripple others. The weak seek to stop the struggle. The great thrive because of it. And I mean, that's 100%. That's 100% spot on.
Yeah, and there's like levels to it, like, and like you're exactly where you should be for like the amount of work you put in,
Right. this book, I reference it a lot, but Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, there's a chapter, and I've brought this up before, but there's a chapter in it that talks about the transmutation of sexual desire. And that's just one internal conflict that occurs within men. I can't speak for women, but there's this internal conflict in men with sexual energy. And the rich people transmute that energy into becoming successful. And I think that's kind of a fraction of what Nietzsche's talking here. Like using these internal conflicts, transmuting them into something that's like a powerful driving force.
Well, just seeking the opposite of being comfortable. Just pay some sort of dividend in some capacity. Like
Right.
going to the gym for 1 hour. Now, is it making you rich? No, but like there is some sort of value of like voluntarily being like uncomfortable, I guess. Same thing with like the jujitsu or walking or even like reading a book, and like all of them are like equal to exactly the amount of like discomfort maybe that presents you, you know?
Right. You're going to learn something, and you'll be better because of it.
Probably.
If you process it.
Probably. Yeah.
Right.
And if you're consistent, you can't do something at one time and like it pay off unless it's like a heist, you know?
Right.
Or like a lottery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thought. Like the same thing that's happening in me is happening in you and all of us. And depending on how we harness that, it really will reflect in how our lives develop, So if you're dealing with an internal struggle, harness it is the big morale from that. I don't know how. That's your personal thing, but there's power in it. It's the Gin Cherokee. Hell yeah. All right.
Moving on.
Add from 200?
Nope.
No.
Nope. All right. Who wants 201?
I'll do it. Oh, okay. How far there?
You walk in. All right. As long as the utility which determines moral estimates is only gregarious utility, as long as the preservation of the community is only kept in view, and the moral is sought precisely and exclusively in what seems dangerous to the maintenance of the community, there can be no morality of love to one's neighbor. Granted, even then there is already a little constant exercise of consideration, sympathy, fairness, gentleness, and mutual assistance. Granted that even in the condition of society, all those instincts are already active, which are laterally distinguished by honorable names as virtues, and eventually almost coincide with the conception of morality. In that period, they do not as yet belong to the domain of moral valuations. They are still ultra-moral. A sympathetic action, for instance, is neither called good nor bad, moral nor immoral, in the best period of the Romans, and should it be praised, a sort of resentful disdain is compatible with this praise. Even at the best, directly, the sympathetic action is compared with one which contributes to the welfare of the whole, to the res publica. After all, love to our neighbor is always a secondary matter, partly conventional and arbitrarily manifested in relation to our fear of our neighbor. After the fabric of society seems on the whole established and secured against external dangers, it is this fear of our neighbor which again creates new perspectives of moral valuation. Certain strong and dangerous instincts such as the love of enterprise, foolhardiness, revengefulness, astuteness, rapacity, and love of power, which up till then had not only to be honored from the point of view of general utility, under other names of course than those here given, but had to be fostered and cultivated because they were perpetually required in the common danger against the common enemies, are now felt in their dangers to be doubly strong when the outlets for them are lacking, and are gradually branded as immoral and given over to calumny. The contrary instincts and inclinations now attain to moral honor. The gregarious instinct gradually draws its conclusions. How much or how little dangerousness to the community or to quality is contained in an opinion, a condition, an emotion, a disposition, or an endowment. That is now the moral perspective. Here again, fear is the mother of morals. It is by the loftiness and strongest instincts when they break out passionately and carry the individual far above and beyond the average and the low level of the gregarious consciousness that the self-reliance of the community is destroyed. Its belief in itself, its backbone, as it were, breaks. Consequently, these very instincts will be most branded and defamed. The lofty, independent spirituality, the will to stand alone, and even the cogent reason are felt to be dangers. Everything that evaluates the individual above the herd and is a source of fear to the neighbor is henceforth called evil. The tolerant, unassuming, self-adapting, self-equalizing disposition, the mediocrity of desires, attains to moral distinction and honor. Finally, under very peaceful circumstances, there is always less opportunity and necessity for training the feelings for severity and rigor. And now every form of severity, even injustice, begins to disturb the conscience. A lofty and rigorous nobleness and self-responsibility almost offends and awakens distrust. The lamb, and still more the sheep, wins respect. There is a point of diseased mellowness and effeminacy in the history of society, at which society itself takes the part of him who injures it, the part of the criminal, and does so in fact seriously and honestly. To punish appears to it to be somehow unfair. It is certain that the idea of punishment and the obligation to punish are then painful and alarming to people. It is not sufficient if the criminal be rendered harmless. Why should we still punish? Punishment itself is terrible. With these questions, gregarious morality, the morality of fear, draws its ultimate conclusion. If one could at all do away with danger, the cause of fear, one would have done away with this morality at the same time. It would no longer be necessary. It would not consider itself any longer necessary. Whoever examines the conscience of the present-day European will always elicit the same imperative from its thousand moral folds and hidden recesses. The imperative of the timidity of the herd. We wish that sometime or other there may be nothing more to fear. Sometime or other, the will and the way thereto is nowadays called progress all over Europe.
Wow. Good job, David. I'm good.
Nietzsche's hidden things that apply today.
Good job. Yeah, of course. There's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. We're all we're all doing the same fucking shit.
It's crazy, man. I was reading this. I was like, God dang, he's calling out AOC right now. But yeah, man. I mean, what do you guys get from that?
It's interesting to think, like, the love of our neighbor is like opposite to the fear of our neighbor. I was like thinking about that, like what he's like really trying to get at there.
Well, I mean, they're the closest other human in proximity to you. Okay. So like you want to have a good relationship with them, not because it's like the moral thing to do, it's because it's for your own safety. You know, like you should love that neighbor because what if you guys have a feud? It could be the most dangerous person because like they're next to where you sleep. They're next to your family. So like we say like love thy neighbor and we paint it as a moral thing, but is it not really out of safety and security for ourselves first? I think that's what he's touching on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying that the love to our neighbor is secondary to the actual
security of ourselves. Oh, security of ourselves. Yeah, they're like, what if this like you don't know who the neighbor is? He could be a psychopath.
Right.
So you should like fucking be on good terms with him. Like to make it like simple.
Mm-hmm.
You should respect him.
This is one of those parts where I feel like he's just putting another spin on like Christian like values, you know? Like it's the medicine to just kind of be like, oh yeah, just go love your neighbor, but it might not be pragmatic when like you don't know your neighbor, know who they are, you know? It could be dangerous people or whatever.
Yeah, it's a respect out of fear thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I got a summary. It's helps out a little bit. So for aphorism 201, this is what ChatGPT said. It said, in this sweeping critique of modern European moral and political culture, Nietzsche argues that the dominant morality is no longer a genuine search for truth or nobility, but rather the moral codification of herd instincts, fear, conformity, mediocrity, and sympathy. He traces this morality back to Christianity and shows how it persists through modern democratic ideals, where concepts like equality, compassion, and love for one's neighbor are venerated. For Nietzsche, his morality stifles the individual, the noble, and the strong. It represents the triumph of the timid over the bold, the average over the exceptional.
Well, I would disagree that like it's necessarily a poke at Christians. I would say that it is in progressive thinking or like Marxist thinking at its core of that, like the herd first, and like great people shouldn't hoard resources, stuff like that. Like that's still relevant today, 100%. You know, like I mean, like during COVID, I mean, it's always like just a good example. Like if you even questioned the science, the herd would like attack you out of like a defensive strategy. But like, I mean, 5 years later, everything that was like questioned that you get canceled for is all like true. So it was never about the truth. It's all about the herd. And
Fear.
it was about fear.
Fear, conformity,
Yeah.
sympathy. Like we heard all the
and kind of touching back on that, what he was talking about, like how people deal with fear is like, and like how and how do they deal with being uncomfortable, and like if you voluntarily choose discomfort, then you're comfortable being uncomfortable, making a hard decision, and sitting back and thinking about it. You know, people wanted like a solution, and that was it, and no more thinking about it. We need to act as the herds, you know, and like not getting the vaccine, you had to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, like, and the pressure that was put on you, you know, from the government, from your work, from your family, like from propaganda, you know, just as an example.
Yeah. And it was a full playbook. They gave it out immediately. You know, here's how you conform. Here's why we do it, because of sympathy. You don't want grandma to die, do you? You know?
Yeah, well, guess what?
My grandma's fine. Motherfucker. There was an interesting couple pieces in here I wanted to kind of discuss, but one of these, I think what we see in culture today, the quote goes, there is a point of diseased mellowness and effeminacy in the history of society, at which society itself takes the part of him who injures it, the part of the criminal, and does so, in fact, seriously and honestly. I was warning, so effeminacy just means like men taking on women traits, right?
Yep.
Do you guys see this at all in culture today? Because it says it's throughout history of societies.
I mean, I think it's just like the classic meme of like strong men make good times make weak men make bad times make strong men. Like in that cycle. Yeah. Like I think like he's just like touching on like that seems to be the case. Like second generation wealthy people like tend to not be successful as like their predecessors because of like their lack of discipline. Whatever. Some people don't ball out because they teach them discipline. Like the Trump family would probably be like that. They're all like very like in the business together. But yeah. So I think it's just that meme, you know, like my father can like he built his own house. He can go hunting and like, you know, skin the deer, and like he made his own beer, and like he can like work on a car. Like how many of you guys can do all that?
Yeah. I can build a house.
You know? So it's just like, and like that's like, and when his father, all of their friends could for sure do all that. You know? Like, and that's what I'm getting at. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe, you know, like guys care more about, and that's always the case, but like my fashion, you know, like I painted my nails, you know, or I have a nose ring. Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about.
Yeah, going out to the streets and complaining about social issues instead of doing something about it. Yeah. All right. So one of the big quotes from this is fear is the mother of all morals. Do you guys agree?
No.
No.
Why?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on like who you're asking, But if fear is like your ultimate moral, then like what a sad existence. You'll never grow, you'll never have fun.
Can you explain why? Like, how's that being viewed as a?
Well,
Yeah.
it'd be like all my decision making is based off of like, is this going to be risky to me? Am I in danger?
Yeah. How I take it is because I've gotten closer to like gospel and like God, or trying to pull myself to adapt a higher sense of principles and morality. Like my fear stems from not being accepted into like almost like a heaven we're not past. And so my fear is not leading in the best capability or like the strongest compatibility I'm capable of. Like if I'm doing things that are like undisciplined, I don't care about certain actions I take. My fear doesn't come from the material world. It comes from like what the voice in my head is telling me. And so the remembrance of my name kind of is my greatest fear. That's how I took it though, because that's how my mind is already working.
Jeff, don't worry about that. Don't you know all dogs go to heaven? So you're fine, dude.
Somebody I love, a close loved one of mine, was actually raised this issue to me where they were like, I don't like how most Christians, or it seems in my experience, are Christian because they fear hell. It's not a conviction thing. It's more of a fear thing. Like as a kid, when I would go to Sunday school, it was like, you got to believe in God or you're going to hell. So it was like, this is the solution. Here's what you got to fear. And like, it's not, I mean, people carry that, people that grow up in the church carry that and they live their life according to that. And that could be kind of something that he's highlighting is like
100%, right? 100%.
People don't have conviction in their morals. They're just afraid of what could happen if it is true.
Yeah, they're like, damn, if I break this code, I'm going to go to hell. So I'm going to live up to these morals out of fear of like the consequences. Yeah.
Sure. And they raised a good point, right? Where it was like, that seems fake in a sense, or it's like you're Christian because you're scared. You're not Christian because you have conviction and actually believe there's a God.
Yeah.
And like you can feel that. Like when somebody, like I say, you go to church and you're talking to people and we're talking about God or whatever, you can feel when somebody has conviction versus somebody's just doing this because they were told it's the right way.
There's a difference if they're a good person, like if they're a good person at heart, or like whatever that means. But if they're they hold themselves to a good standard, but they don't have that belief and they don't have that fear of God or hell, but they understand that they should operate as a good human being, couldn't they still hold that fear in their heart that like something like they won't be rewarded in the eternal life if they have some sort of like understanding of that?
Human being.
Totally. I mean, even outside of religion, fear. Like, I don't want to do this because I could go to jail. Like, that's a fear, Yeah. So,
Right.
Religion exclusive. But that was one of the things that came up in my life. So, like actual conviction rather than fear. So, yeah, I mean, John, you raise a good point. Like, what a sad existence, Like, if you're making all these choices based on fear, like rather than conviction. Like for me during COVID, I didn't have conviction and be like, I didn't need that jab. You know what I mean? I didn't need it. And I conformed. And to this day, I regret it, Like I don't have any adverse effects today, but like I could have stood on business and had conviction to be like, I don't need that. I looked at the data. I saw the data. It wasn't as bad as people were saying. Like, yes, a lot of people died, but I could have conviction in the 99.6 survival rate.
I mean, yeah, it's like it seems to me like dude, this shouldn't make no sense.
Right. And John, that's something that I hold in high regard for you, is that you're a man of conviction. Like, you have your beliefs, you've done research on them, and you've come to a conclusion, and that's what it is, Like, a boss can come to you and be like, you got to do this. Yeah, I'm not doing it, And like, that's something I need to exercise and develop in myself is conviction. And that's something I'm working on, And I think a lot of us are.
You got it, dude.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Everyone missing it thing. I think one of the things he mentions in here, so that strong man gets looked at as evil by the weak man, or the weak people in society. I think that was an interesting idea.
Yeah, but that's like normal though. Like we see that all the time.
Right. Like somebody who stands out, like Jordan Peterson mentions the zebra. Like, as a whole, lions can't track just one zebra, but when you paint a red stripe on them, that becomes the one that's singled out. And so there
is just responsibility, or there's just consequences of sticking out.
Right.
So that's fine though.
Yeah, I mean, look at the comment section of any celebrity,
Right. But I mean, they're successful, so he gives a shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that was an interesting thing he also pointed out. I mean, I was just like, man, this guy's speaking from 1880 or whatever, and he speaks to applies. These are like cyclic things, so or ubiquitous across time. So
right.
And the last sentence, when he says sometime or other, the will, the way thereto is nowadays called progress all over Europe. And today we have a party called the Progressive Party.
Yeah, I mean, like every agenda they push is like for progress. Like we need more fucking. I'm not even gonna say it, but
yeah, like to take the term progress and completely like the word means absolutely nothing.
Progress means the dismantlement of all traditional values. So it's not. It's like this is the trick with these types of people. Everything they say, you have to invert their values. So like, what does progress mean? It means like the degradation of like all traditional values. And like that's what they want. That's like the ultimate goal. So like when they say like we want equity or equality, what they want is like the inverse of that. They want like people with like the lowest status to have the highest status. They want people with the highest status but the lowest status. Like it's always like a fucking like Houdini trick with like those types of people. Like their words are like an inversion of like what they actually want.
Yeah, that's a good observation. That's really good. Yeah, progress. I mean, he hit it. I mean, the term alone is still used today.
Yeah,
so crazy, dude.
Progressive.
Yeah, progressive. Literally, I'm like,
man, like everything that's like we need more progress with like gay rights and transgender this and fucking this that, and like we need more like people of color for this, and like we need like everything is for the sake of progress. I just named a bunch of buzzwords that are like important because it's fucking June or whatever, Pride. Yeah. But
yeah, dude.
God damn, the gays are gonna hate me.
The gays. All right. Anything else to add before we move to 202?
Why is he never talking about Chinese people in this? You ever think about that?
Oh, you probably don't dabble in the Orient much.
I heard from those taking about like the Orientals. He's never referencing Orientals and their values.
He has. He's mentioned the Orient. The Buddhist? No. Before he has mentioned the Orient. I remember him using the word Orient.
Okay. All right.
How Europeans had been influenced by the Orient. I can't remember when. I could go back to ChatGPT and have to look.
Siri, did Nietzsche ever criticize the Orients? Did they?
Orients.
Oh, yeah. All right. John, do you want 202?
I mean, I guess so.
Or you want 203? I mean, you can have 203 if you want.
I'll read this. Fuck it. Right. Let me wet my whistle. All right.
Oh my god. Whoa.
What, dude? Never fucking heard that before? Come on. All right. 202. Let us at once say again what we have already said 100 times. For people's ears nowadays are unwilling to hear such truths, our truths. We know well enough how offensive it sounds when any other plainly and without metaphor counts man among the animals. But it will be accounted to us almost a crime that it is precisely in respect to men of modern ideas that we have constantly applied the terms herd and herd instincts. And such like an expression, what avail is it? We cannot do otherwise, for it is precisely here that our new insight is. We have found that in all the principal moral judgments, Europe has become unanimous, including likewise the countries where European influence prevails, and Europe people evidently know what Socrates thought he did not know, and what the famous serpent of old once promised to teach, and they know today what is good and evil. Hang on a second. It must then sound hard and be distasteful to the ear when we always insist that which here thinks it knows, that which here glorifies itself with praise and blame and calls itself good, is the instinct of the herding human animal, the instinct which has come and is ever coming more and more to the front, to preponderance and supremacy over other instincts, according to the increasingly psychological approximation and resemblance of which it is the symptom. Morality in Europe at present is herding animal morality, and therefore, as we understand the matter, only one kind of human morality, besides which, before which, and after which, many other moralities, and above all, higher moralities, are or should be possible. Against such a possibility, against such a should be, however, this is morality defends itself with all its strength. It says obstinately and inexorably, I am morality itself, and nothing else is morality. Indeed, with the help of a religion which has humored and flattered the sublimest desires of the herding animal, things have reached such a point that we always find a more visible expression of this morality, even in the political and social arrangements. The democratic movement is the inheritance of the Christian movement. That is tempo. However, it much too slow and sleepy for more impatient ones. For those who are sick and distracted by the herding instinct, it is dictated by the increasingly furious howling and always less disguised teeth not gnashing of the anarchist dog, who are now roving through the highways of European culture, apparently in opposition to peacefully industrious Democrats and revolution ideologues. Thank you, ideologues. And still more so to the awkward philosopher Hasters and fraternity. What is it?
Philosophasters?
Philosophasters. Yeah, fucking philosophasters and fraternity visionaries who call themselves socialists and want a free society. Those are really at one with them, all in their thorough and instinctive hostility to every form of society other than that of the autonomous herd, to the extent even of repudiating the notions master and servant, ni Dieu, ni maître. I don't know. It says a socialist formal, probably French or something. At one in their tenacious opposition to every special claim, every special right and privilege. This means ultimately the opposition to every right, for when all are equal, no one needs rights any longer. At one in their distrust of punitive justice, as though it were a violation of weak, unfair to the necessary consequences of all form of society, but equally at one in their religion of sympathy, in their compassion for all that feels, lives, and suffers, down to the very animals of even to God, and the extravagance of sympathy for God belongs to the democratic age. Altogether at one in the cry and impatience of their sympathy, in their deadly hatred of suffering generally, in their almost feminine incapacity for witnessing it or allowing it, at one in their involuntary beglooming and heart softening under the spell of which Europe seems to be threatened with a new Buddhism, at one in their belief in the morality of mutual sympathy, as though it were morality in itself, the climax, the attained climax of mankind, the sole hope of the future, the consolation of the present, the great discharge from all obligations of the past, altogether at one in their belief in the community as the deliverer in the herd, and therefore in themselves. Fuck, so many words.
So that French term means no gods, no masters.
The dog of the master.
No God, no master.
I knew it was French. Sounded gay. Okay. What's this? We.
This one's interesting. He dives into like the various like dynamics of politics at the time. And like
and right now, really, like the whole thing about like ultimately, like back to the progressives, like ultimately what they want is no rights for anybody, and that's how we'll reach equality. Because like right now there's such a disparity of equality that we're gonna make you all slaves. Yay!
Right.
You don't get to own a house or a car, and like health insurance is not affordable. Yay! Like that's what they fucking sell it. Like you're gonna eat bugs and live in a pot. Yay!
right.
But and like that's how they're like that's the utopia. That's what we've been dreaming about. Like that's what AI is gonna get us to. Like it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, right up.
Like I feel like Alex Jones, but like that's literally like, dude, do you not listen to them? Like they're saying all this stuff. Like no one's fucking listening.
Yeah, even financially speaking, the only way to make everybody equal is to make everybody dirt poor.
They like exactly like the only way that's why they're importing the poor countries. America and Europe, they've been prosperous for too long, and it's unfair that all these other countries, even though they've had the same amount of time as all of us, that they can't build themselves up. So what we'll do is we'll import all the poor people here, and then that will lower the boats, and we'll all be poor, and it'd be great for all of us, the leaders, because
Equality.
it's great for leaders if everyone's poor, because then you have less power and you have less of a voice, and then we get to have all the control of everything for the herd, and the herd's happy about it because the herd stays fed because they're farm animals, and they get their government assistance, and they fucking whatever, and they fucking die eventually.
They mandate conformity through sympathy.
Yeah, like don't you want these fucking poor people like that live a good life? It's like, I mean, fucking honestly, I don't know them. Like I have a heart, but like I'm trying to fucking not be poor myself. You know what I'm saying? So me first, and then like my friend. Well, then my family, and then my friends, and then my community, and like maybe that poor person like fucking down the road, but like we gotta get there first. Like I'm sorry, bro, but like you might have to go back home like where you came from. Like I'm just being honest, like not enough right now.
There's a quote that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna belt all their dicks off. Good intentions.
Good intentions. Overpopulation.
We're affirming this young man. Okay, he wants to be a woman.
Oh man, dude.
It's for his own good. Prime on, bro. Chill out. Even more so.
Yeah, so he's saying like the overall morality, or excuse me, the overall like what's he say here?
The herd mentality.
The herd. Europe wide, it's all about herd mentality. You heard, right? And he's saying religion helped with it.
Can we talk about the end, bro? That's the shit that got me when he was like,
socialist part.
Well, when he's talking about like the mutual sympathy and the sole hope of the future, the consolation of the present, the great discharge from all obligations of the past, all together at one in their belief in the community of the deliverer in the herd. It's like even right now in our own country, like they want to fucking eradicate all America's achievements because like they're like the past is actually tainted with blood and we can't even look at it anymore. It's like, and they're like, so they were all bad actually, Name
like, one good person from the past, I dare you, without flaws.
Oh,
it's like, what are we doing?
The Lord. Well, they just don't. Well, they just don't know how we fucking got here. Like, I mean, the revolutionary happened because like these people were like, "Fuck them," we'll fight about this shit immediately, like on blood. You know, I mean, that's just like,
It's the tale of time. It's the tale as old as time.
or they're like, these guys had slaves. It was like, where'd they get them from?
Right? Oh, let's not talk about. Let's not talk about that.
I don't. I'm just saying. I mean, like, fuck, dude. Like,
Straight up. I mean, tyranny is always a part of human history, you know? And like, there's no way of avoiding that. You know, it led to where we are. And just to like wipe that all out, it seems a little crazy, you know?
Evil.
Yeah. And I mean, this whole final section from page 104 all the way to aphorism 203, he's describing socialists. And like, he has a little excerpt of what democratic movement is. He has a little expert of these revolutionaries, and then he just goes in on socialists, right? So it must have been like a pretty pervasive ideal during his time as well.
yeah, I guess he did not like him. They'd be fucking. I'm not gonna say it, but you know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Let's see here. He goes, socialists, excuse me, so free society. Those are, okay, yeah. Apparently in opposition to the peacefully industrious Democrats and revolutionary ideologues, and still more so to the awkward philosophers and fraternity visionaries who call themselves socialists and want a free society. And it's interesting, he describes them as fraternity visionaries. And like,
They're brothers in an idea.
well, that too, but fraternities makes me think college, right?
No. What's the definition of fraternity?
Brotherhood.
Then take it as that.
All right. But let me say what I'm saying.
I'm just
People that are socialists today probably came out of an Ivy League college or a college period, you know?
I mean, today you could 100% make that argument, you know, but like, probably.
Yeah, because really what I think it boils down to is elitism. Some people,
I mean, like, where did like Lenin go to college, or Karl Marx? Where do you go to college?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, I mean, those people are like,
Let's see. Books, college.
those were revolutionaries.
Karl Marx went to 3 different colleges.
Okay.
Friedrich Schiller University, University of Bonn, and Humboldt University of Berlin.
True.
So, okay. So what I was saying, I think it boils down to an elitism, right? Like I've met people in various, like avenues of my life that think they have it figured out. And because they have it figured out and it works for them, they think it applies to everybody. Well, this is a way that everybody should live.
What's that called? Prescribers, right?
That's elitists.
Yeah. Well, they're like
Right?
prescribing you like how to live life. But yeah.
Or mandating it, right? So like I've met these people, and when I like have discussions with them, it's their way and that's the right way, and that's how everybody else has to operate. And because of that, like you see it in politics. Let's just say politics, right? We have all these slogans. These are the morals we live by, and this is how you have to live because we've determined that this is the right way to live. And now we're starting to see mandates. Like it's starting to unfold a little bit now, but this like elitism, he's describing them as socialists here that want a free society, remove rights. Like really, I think these are elitist people that ultimately think they have it figured out. And because of that, you have to live their way of life. Like somebody in Washington, D.C. knows what's best for somebody who's living in Kansas. Like that makes no sense. You know what I mean? Let's say you're putting subsidies on corn. Like you're making corn more expensive to produce. Now a person in Kansas is taking a hit because of that, because you think that this was a better way this is how we should operate. And like, I think that alone is a big part of the problem. Like let people know what's best for them as an individual or for them as a family, you know? So
I agree.
yeah. All right. Anything else to add from 202? No. Let's see. I got a question here from ChatGPT, and if you don't have an answer, we can just skip. But the question is, how do our institutions reward or punish nonconformity?
I mean, that's pretty easy, right?
Let's hear it.
I mean,
Jail.
huh?
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
Nonconformity typically leads to like less access to opportunity.
Okay. I wasn't thinking that, but that's a good idea. That's a good one. Less access to opportunity. So let's say you didn't get the jab. You can't go eat at restaurants. You can't work at this job.
I mean, that's just for COVID, like right now, like conformity could be like being obedient in school, going to college. Like going to college is like, could even be a form of conformity too, And like, if you don't do these things that like, which is a ritual, like a rite of passage to be like an adult, then like, you're going to have less access to like jobs, or so they say.
Right.
Right. Or really
anything. Opportunity.
If you don't conform to these rules, you're going to go to jail.
Yeah. All right. A removing of opportunity. That's a good way to put it, because a jail falls in there too,
Yeah, like literally that's like the ultimate removal of opportunity. They're like, we're taking like everything. All for like for like time.
Yeah, you didn't have the opportunity to see your kids, really.
You can see it through the glass, baby. That's about it.
You could touch the glass like that.
What was the question again, though?
The question is, how do our institutions reward or punish nonconformity? So we talked about punish. Is there any reward?
Well, I think like thinking about if I know what is that word, fraternity visionaries. I know it's not the definition isn't associated with college. It means brotherhood. But what my mind thinks about when you're joining a fraternity, you have to do like they have like the whole phasing process or the initiation to be accepted.
Yeah.
The way that is conformity. I remember watching the documentary on forget what schools it was, but it's essentially like the schools that the George Bush family went to, and they
Ivy League, Yale.
Yeah, so the Ivy League schools and the fraternity
Skull and Crossbones.
Yeah, that shit was like at such a high level where it wasn't so much conformity, because the definition of conformity just means accepting a certain standard.
Yeah,
it was like you're putting something at risk, like you're putting your skin in the game. So if you ever try to double cross us or not conform, we have this against. We have this to you. So,
Diddy
to
Epstein.
So the last part of your question is, how is it not rewarded?
Oh no. So how do institutions reward or punish nonconformity?
Well, I think how punish it is that if you don't conform to a standard like that, you won't have access to that elite circle, right? Like over time, it has played out to have significant benefit to people in politics, banking systems, social groups that are like really, really elite, to where it's not really based on your grades. It's really what you did to conform to that social program.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what I think makes decentralization so interesting to me, is like you conform to a system somewhat, but ultimately you're kind of autonomous. You can kind of move and do things in a decentralized manner.
But you need, there's a healthy amount of conformity, like the Bill of Rights, like the Constitution, the Ten Commandments. It's like in the least amount of rules possible, can we all agree to live by this, just for all of us, so like we're able to function? Like, it's like what you just said only works on like the micro level. Like you can never have a macro scale, and like we live at like a macro scale with like how we engage with other humans. So like we need a level of conformity. It's just like, but like how much like top down is like acceptable to you, the individual.
Yeah, if you ever, Jay, I don't know, you probably are listening to a lot of like podcasts and stuff, but you should really listen to the opposition talk about Bitcoin, because one thing I learned listening to because I'm always like, I'll listen to one thing that I agree with, but I'm always looking for the opposite of what the argument is.
Yeah.
One good argument that I heard about Bitcoin that I don't like necessarily agree wholeheartedly to, but it makes sense and it's factual, that if enough Bitcoin gets consumed by the decentralized community, who it could be anybody in the world, or any group, whatever, then that means that there is a separation of power to some extent. Meaning, if people are holding wealth in Bitcoin, that means the majority of the rest of the people don't get Bitcoin.
Yeah. I think 95% of Bitcoin has been mined and 95% of the global population doesn't have access to it.
Yeah. So there is I don't know if the right word is conformity, but I think there is going to be a dynamic of power at play when we do get to that point where Bitcoin is being implemented in all sorts of facets of life.
Yeah, I mean, one of the arguments against it I heard, and I'll just keep this quick, Bitcoin was supposed to get us away from banks, right? And it was supposed to decentralize us. But here we are, almost 20 years later? Now, banks are getting involved and countries are getting involved, and it's in complete opposite of what it was supposed to be, right? Because it just didn't serve the purpose it was supposed to. And that's what you're talking about, right? I mean, look at the opposite. And
I think truly there will truly and authentically be no feasible way to create a monetary system that 99% of the world operates on without the global world leaders operating in.
Oh, for sure.
So it's always going to be a dynamic of power. And then I think the conformity comes from the people that have, let's say, the guy that got released from prison, right? Like he's the guy that created the dark web for like medicine. I forget his name, but he went to prison for LVD.
Martin Skelly or something like that.
No. It's Dread Pirate Roberts, whatever, which is the Silk Road guy, which his real name is Ross Ulbricht.
Oh yeah, so him. If it,
maybe you guys think we're talking about, look at all this fucking shit I'm gonna have, dog.
I can remember that was a good pull, but what I'm saying is, to me, he would be a catalyst for the nature of the global leaders if they somehow convinced him to be a part of their circle and not for the decentralized world circle. That would be a catalyst of events that we'd be like, what the fuck? Okay, Bitcoin might be taking a turn for the worse. Like he owns a fuck ton of Bitcoin.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's like little, like not little, but like it's things like that could turn Bitcoin on its head really quick.
Yeah. He got punished for not conforming. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, he fucking was running the most. I mean, they were selling murders on that site. They were selling. I mean, right? Look, it wasn't just drug dealing. I mean, and it was like eBay of drugs, but like you could buy like literally like hitmen on there. You could buy guns on there. You could buy like babies on there. Which is pretty neat.
Learn about the creation and what the utility was, or not, because we all know why it was created.
I know a lot about like what Silk Road was and like what it was. I understand. It's literally like it's like a libertarian version of like Craigslist or fucking eBay or whatever. And like Bitcoin,
You know why he like initially started it? Not when like what we know today.
When initially started, yeah, because he was trying to sell mushrooms that he had grown.
No.
Yeah.
That he was. There's a great documentary. If I find it, I'll send it to you guys. Essentially it's the pharmaceutical market that has inflated all the medicine. So for people that are older that can't afford like diabetes medicine, essentially what he did was create Silk Road to sell to older people that couldn't access this $600 medicine.
That's not true at all. I've listened to like a lot of documentaries about this. I don't think that's true at all. I've listened to a lot of podcasts about this and documentaries about this. And like
he was
like a libertarian guy, and he was like, why can't people buy drugs, like actual drugs, like safely? Why did they buy it through a drug dealer? And he's like, what if like there was a way where like people didn't have to feel like sketched out like buying drugs, and you could just like buy drugs online and like we ship them to you. And like he the first thing on Silk Road was his own mushrooms that he grew himself and put on Silk Road.
Well, I don't believe mushrooms are like considered the same thing as like heroin.
It's a scale to one drug.
Like, yeah, that's not what I was saying though.
I know.
It's not like he was Robin Hood doing this for like old people. I mean, he was just like he was a libertarian guy where he was like, I don't think the government should decide whether people do drugs or not. And then like
we've strayed.
Yeah.
We've strayed. Find the doc and send it to the group chat because I'll check that out. You gonna make grandma and grandpa download Tor?
Yeah, exactly. They weren't fucking doing that shit, bro. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, thank you.
Have you heard of
Downloading Tor and uploading to the dark web. Yeah. Fucking a grandma in 2013 was doing that. No shot. They're fucking still had a flip phone.
All right, I'll get us back on track here. We're going to go to aphorism 203. 202, good read. All right, so I'm going to jump into 203. We who hold a different belief, we who regard the democratic movement not only as a degenerating form of political organization, but as equivalent to a degenerating, a waning type of man, as involving his mediocrizing and depreciation. Where have we to fix our hopes? In new philosophers, there is no other alternative. In mind strong and original enough to initiate opposite estimates of value, to transvalue and invert eternal valuations. In forerunners, in men of the future, who in the present shall fix the constraints and fasten the knots which compel millenniums to take new paths. To teach man the future of humanity as his will, as depending on human will, and to make preparation for vast, hazardous enterprises and collective attempts in rearing and educating, in order thereby to put an end to the frightful rule of folly and chance, which has hitherto gone by the name of history. The folly of the greatest number is only its last form. For that purpose, a new type of philosopher and commander will sometime or other be needed. At the very idea of which everything that has existed in the way of a cult, terrible and benevolent beings might look pale and dwarfed. The image of such leaders hovers before our eyes. Is it lawful for me to say aloud, ye free spirits? The conditions which one would partly have to create and partially utilize for their genesis, the presumptive methods and tests by virtue of which a soul should grow up to such an elevation and power as to feel a constraint to these tasks, a transvaluation of values under the new pressure and hammer of which a conscience should be steeled and a heart transformed into brass, so as to bear the weight of such responsibility. And on the other hand, the necessity for such leaders, the dreadful danger that they might be lacking or miscarry and degenerate. These are our real anxieties and glooms. Ye know it well, ye free spirits. These are the heavy, distant thoughts and storms which sweep across the heaven of our life. There are few pains so grievous as to have seen, divined, or experienced how an exceptional man has missed his way and deteriorated. But he who has the rare eye for the universal danger of man himself deteriorating, he who, like us, has recognized the extraordinary fortuitousness which has hitherto played its game in respect to the future of mankind, a game in which neither the hand nor even a finger of God has participated. He who divines the fate that is hidden under the idiotic unwariness and blind confidence of modern ideas, and still more under the whole of Christo-European morality, suffers from an anguish with which no other is to be compared. He sees at a glance all that could still be made out of man through a favorable accumulation and augmentation of human powers and arrangements. He knows, with all the knowledge of his conviction, how unexhausted man still is for the greatest possibilities, and how often in the past the type man has stood in presence of mysterious decisions and new paths. He knows still better, from his painfulest recollections, on what wretched obstacles promising developments of the highest rank have hitherto usually gone to pieces, broken down, sunk, and become contemptible. The universal degeneracy of mankind to the level of the man of the future, as idealized by the socialistic fools and shallow hates. This degeneracy and dwarfing of man to an absolutely gregarious animal, or as they call it, to a man of free society. This brutalizing of man into a pygmy with equal rights and claims is undoubtedly possible. He who has thought out this possibility to its ultimate conclusion knows another loathing, unknown to the rest of mankind, and perhaps also a new mission. All right. Who's going to take a shot? Pew, pew.
Man, let's kick it off on this one.
Okay. I got a summary because it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it helps kind of at least put the ideas together so maybe we can discuss them. So from the AI overlords is hence. Nietzsche begins by stating his opposition to the democratic movement, not only politically, but anthropogenically. It breeds a waning type of man. He asserts that salvation lies in these new philosophers, capable of overturning present values and creating eternal valuations. These thinkers would resist the mediocrity and conformity.
Real quick, can we stop right there? I didn't realize I was muted this whole time. I've been fucking saying shit. Anyway, fucking the waning type of man. Let's talk about that. The democratic system and how it's creating the waning type of man. That means like when a moon's waning, that means it's getting smaller and smaller, right?
Yep, have a progressively smaller part visible.
So what he's saying is, by every next generation, man is waning. This type of man that evolves and lives in a democratic system. Is he just saying like it just seems to me that like with every new generation, they're less than. Maybe you can continue. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, or maybe like this waning of not the democratic man, but these new philosophers. We're getting less and less of them, maybe.
Well, he's just saying like I think like how democracy does work is that like you do give up, you forfeit your autonomy for the herd because it simplifies things, you know, and you have the possibility that like through like generations of like thinking for the herd and what that does to like, let's say your personal rights of like of voting that way, you've waned yourself to have like less rights than your forefathers or less power than your forefathers or less education than your forefathers because of like this slow progression of what the herd mentality and the consequences of that, what it does thinking that way. Well, like, I mean, you have to a little bit, you know?
Right. All right. I'll continue. He asserts that salvation lies in these new philosophers capable of overturning present values and creating eternal valuations. These thinkers would resist the mediocrity and conformity promoted by the democratic ideal and instead act as commanders of the future. Can we think of any?
That are like pro conformity.
What are these new philosophers that resist mediocrity and the conformity promoted by democratization?
I mean, I know I get to go like, yeah, I mean, Jordan Peterson, like 2018 was one of them. Like Brett Weinstein was one of them around like that same time. You could say like
Alex Jones.
You could say sure Alex Jones. You could say Donald Trump. You could say Elon Musk.
We're gonna win so much, you might even get tired of winning. You're gonna look at me and say, "President, we're tired of winning. That's enough." I'm gonna say, "No, we gotta win more."
I think maybe we'll start winning here soon. I don't know what we're hoping and praying.
Start fucking turning the money machine on. We gonna be winning. Hell yeah. All right, I'm gonna continue. He imagines such individuals as having a brass-like strength of conscience, prepared for immense responsibility. But he also warns of the dangers. These great souls may be lacking, may degenerate, or be destroyed by the very forces they oppose. The specter of mankind's universal degeneration into a herd-like, equalized, free society haunts the philosopher of the future. One who sees this possibility knows a kind of despair unknown to the rest of humanity. So he's like,
yeah, I mean, like Jordan Peterson
is the new philosopher.
Yeah, like Jordan Peterson got canceled, you know, and like Elon Musk is trying to like help us with the fucking government, and like how's that turning out for him? Fucking everyone hates him, you know.
Oh man, he really put himself in a corner this past week, huh?
Oh, I know. I know. Like I don't disagree with like his critiques because I'm like, what is the point of all this fucking doge shit if we're gonna fucking pass the largest spending bill to date? But also, maybe let's not like fucking
Let's look at the vision, bro.
let's not be immature about it and fucking like do what he's doing. Like Elon's way more valuable on the team than off the team. So it's pretty fucked. Like, yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, in terms of new philosophers, you know, when we mentioned Jordan Peterson, as we're reading more Nietzsche, I'm seeing that he's taken these ideas and kind of just like built on top of them in a sense, like all good scholars do.
I was gonna say, I mean, like, what do you think Nietzsche was doing? You think this is all just fucking from his brain by himself?
No, I think he stood on shoulders of giants for sure, but he might be critiquing them more so. And adding his own piece, just like Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson critiques Nietzsche, like just like Nietzsche was critiquing these people.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear Jordan Peterson's response to all his kind of like poking and prodding at Christianity, seeing as like he's kind of coming to the Christianity side, right?
Not really. He had the whole fucking thing where he like would not say that he was a Christian.
He doesn't have to state it, dude. His actions. He put on a tux that had 3 crosses on it, all over it, and a halo. I mean,
then say the words, fucking tough guy. Like Jordan Peterson does this whole like mental masturbation thing where he's like, "What does that mean?" Actually, he's like, "Dude, just fucking like." They're asking a fucking question like, "Would you say you're a Christian? Yes or no?" He's like, "Well, to stake one's life on principles is no fucking laughing matter." Well, first people think about it. Like, dude, you fucking say yes or no, bro. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Fuck, dude. Just you know, and like he's kind of gotten too fucking like in the like every question is like a kaleidoscope of micro questions, and we must first it's like, dude, fucking baby, braces.
Give me that here.
That's what it seems like recently. If you watch him, that's how I feel. I feel like he's gotten so fucking in the weeds with like his fucking like micro questions of like, what does that actually mean? You know, like we have first said like, are you willing to stake your life on principles? Well, am I willing to die? It's like, I don't just fucking this guy's 14.
He just does not want to be painted into a corner, you know?
He paints himself in a corner with not being able to answer questions. You know, it's like because every question is like literally like he takes like, well, what do you mean by like I in this scenario? Like that common meme, but like he does that shit to himself where he puts himself in a corner. Like he should have some flexibility to be like, can you answer a question without like mental masturbating the question?
Yeah.
I mean, right? Fuck, as a viewer, you know?
I mean, he's always diving into the minutia, you know?
I feel like it's grown though. I think when I first heard about him, it wasn't so much, you know? I feel like he's gotten like really fucking into that shit. More so.
Before we even got into him, the Maps of Meaning book that he came out with is strictly the kaleidoscope of the minutia of all these different stories, you know?
True.
That's like the whole thing, you know?
You guys watch the Jordan Peterson versus 20 Atheists?
That's what I'm talking about, David. That's exactly what I'm talking about right now. Where like he like couldn't even answer like, "Am I a Christian?" He's like
there's times I feel like it was more about like he was trying to like win the argument, like even though they said they weren't, like he was just like, "No, I never said that," or blah blah blah. You know? Weird.
Did you see they changed the title? It was One Christian versus 20 Atheists, and they changed it to Jordan Peterson versus 20.
Yeah, because like he never once stated that he was a Christian, and they're like, "Didn't you not come on here? Like, was the title not One Christian?" Like, they're like this just seems like crazy. Like, it shows like his participation in that event. Like, well, for good faith, are you not? Is this not an event called One Christian versus 20 Atheists? And he's like, well, who's the say? Who's the Christian? Who's the atheist? It's just like, bro, like you fucking came here, bro. Like on good faith, can't you answer that at least? Can you answer that one question like normally? It's just like that first one. And he's like, what is a question? It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to Jordan, but if he did that to me, I would be like, man, we're not getting anywhere. You know,
we're not going to get anywhere at 10 fast, are we?
Right. We're going to baby step our way.
I hope you brought a shovel because we're going to be digging.
But first we have to understand what the context of the shovel is.
Who brought the shovel? Why? What type of shovel is it? Is it a spade? Is it a spud? I don't know.
Yo, I doubt he ever will see this, but Jordan, we love you. And we'd love to have you on here just to fucking talk. We would love to. If you're watching this, forward this to Jordan Peterson. Share it with him. Share it, please.
Don't be a smartass.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. All right. Anything to add to 203, or should we wrap up?
Let's wrap up because my phone's going to die. So I'm going to put on the charger. So I'm going to close my camera, but I'll stay
Right.
on.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. We're so grateful that you're here. We hope you enjoyed the show. We hope you're reading along with us. If you are, drop in the comment box below. I'm sure we missed something. Go ahead and drop that down in the comment box, and we'd love to engage with you. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell right next to it. Follow us on all our social media. All you need will be down in the description box below. And next week, we're going to be jumping into chapter 6 titled We Scholars in Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. Again, thank you guys so much. And remember, who you are now equals who you'll be tomorrow. Peace.